Sounds good.
And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 7 of the Greatest Muley Hunter podcast. Joining me today is my good buddy, Shad Huber. We grew up together in Montana and have known each other for quite a while. So,
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how the time flies.
Yeah.
Like it's
Time flies. We got lots of kids.
yeah.
Lots of stuff going on, man.
Yep. Everything is busy all the time. But
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here. It's definitely an honor to be on here. I've listened to every single one of them, and dude, it's amazing the perspectives. You know, you got every different type of people on here, and they all have the different perspective. They have different experiences, but what it all circles around to where hunting is a huge part of their life.
yep.
And it's nothing but good things.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing how like people of such diverse backgrounds and just very, very different upbringing can all come together over this one thing, this one fundamental thing that has changed and made us who we are,
Absolutely.
I
I mean,
mean,
I keep in touch with a lot of guys that if it wasn't for hunting,
yeah.
we probably wouldn't talk, but it definitely keeps us together.
Yep.
And I know me and my brother, and my dad, when hunting season comes around,
Yeah.
we're on the phone almost every day.
Yep.
It's insane how hunting will
Yep.
change your patterns and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, since I started doing this podcast too, like I'm so ready for November, man. Like I just
me,
cannot wait to get out to Montana and do some hunting and
yeah, that was funny. The last guy, was it Sean?
Yeah.
Sean, he's coming out.
Sean is coming out, yeah. He's
That's awesome. I remember
from
I was listening
Missouri.
to his, I was listening to the podcast, and he was so amped up and asking you questions. Is like, how's this going to be? How's that going to be?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? It's like, what do we do? And I can remember time and time again having conversations like that with my dad and my brother and
Yep.
friends and stuff like that. And you always have this grand plan in mind, and it never ever works out the same way.
Never.
Ever. Like last year, I took my boss hunting, and one of his friends, he's from Germany, and his friend's from California. And I went like 2 or 3 days before him and was hanging out with my dad and just, glassing and doing some spotting for him. And we were seeing big bucks like 500 yards from my dad's house.
Yeah.
And I was calling him, telling him about all these big bucks, and he was getting all amped up. And then I was actually kind of worried. I was like, man, they're not going to get the experience. It's like it's going to be easy. It's going to be too easy.
Yeah.
The day they got there, they were just like somebody turned a light switch and they were gone.
Sure.
So it's like,
yeah,
what the heck happened?
Man, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
You can always have a plan, and then you get there, and well, it's hard, especially like you and I live a long ways away from where we grew up now, and so it's hard to get back. And I mean, at least your dad is there, and so he, you have a good close connection there, but still, like being there yourself is a completely different thing than relying on what he's seeing. And I mean, he's out there. You guys lived outside of town and just amazing area. And I just remember the first time I walked inside your guys' house, and there's just this huge wall and monster animals. I'm like, holy cow, this is
it's been a while since we've killed anything like that. It's been a long while, but that's kind of funny watching, these podcasts and seeing how you guys did it and how everybody else does it. It's like, we are completely opposite of what you guys did, like you guys, and it's kind of funny. Like we grew up in the same town, and I had no idea that you guys were struggling that bad. Right.
Yep.
And we were on the other end of that. Right. We didn't need it for food. We didn't need it for, to make sure we had something to eat. But I was like, it's completely different. And like, we went years without shooting deer.
Yep.
And like we actually, it's kind of funny. It's like I talked to my dad about it, and do we actually go out there to hunt, or are we just out there looking? Because we enjoy it so much, just being out there.
Yeah.
We don't need to pull the trigger. That's not our satisfaction. Our satisfaction is getting out there, being in the truck, glassing for hours, and just telling stories.
Yep.
So
yeah, being together with the people that you love and doing the thing that you love the most is, I mean, that's at this point that's worth everything. I mean, it was a much different story early on. Like I don't know about you, but man, I just when I was young, I had a pretty good bloodlust and needed to kill something pretty much.
right.
But as you accumulate good bucks over the years and you shoot a lot of deer, and it changes over time, certainly. And obviously I'm more discriminating now than I ever was back then. I mean, we always held out for a big buck, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to eating or not eating, you're gonna eat. So
Right.
I've killed a lot of nice bucks, but nothing like a really big buck, and
Yeah.
and it's, I mean, I've seen some monsters over the years, but that's part of the deal too. Like, you just don't know. And then, if you kill a good buck early in the season and you have the whole season to hunt, that's always kind of a
It's a bummer.
I mean, you still go and you still get out there, but man, it better be a big buck if it's early in the season. That's
takes away the fun almost. It's fun to shoot them, right? It's fun to get that big one and have them on the wall. But man, if it's in October, man, you got a whole month to just sit on your butt and watch everybody else go.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the amazing part about your dad was the the animals that he killed were so big.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny. I don't know who was on, but you were talking about the buck that's in your logo.
Yeah.
This one.
Yep.
Represent. Right. So the buck that was in your logo is he offered it to 3 different people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And they all said no, and they shouldn't listen to him.
Nobody could see the antlers, man. He backed himself into one of those juniper trees, and nobody could see. My dad saw that big white face and that Roman nose, and he's like, That's an old buck.
Big deer.
That's exactly the kind of deer we want to take,
Yeah.
Past breeding.
And I would have been
probably.
the one. I would have been the one that said, "Yeah, I didn't see the horns. I'm not gonna shoot."
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
Exactly. And then you get him, and he's 30 inches wide and 7x7 and a 10-inch drop time. Like, I mean,
that just never happens.
Yep.
Those drop tines. That's the ultimate.
That's the only one he ever killed in 64 years of bucks. Like, that's the only one he ever got with a drop time. And I mean,
that's a huge testament of what your dad is, though. It's like, let somebody else shoot it first.
Oh, for sure.
And
he was never interested. He was never interested in killing him for himself. He was always way more interested in letting somebody else do it and being there and helping them. And, and that's, man, it's just so crazy. Like, he introduced so many people over the years to hunting, and like just taught so many people, and then they taught so many people, and it's just this entire cascade effect that, like, the amount of reach that him and his hunting career has in just people that I know is unbelievable. It's truly just incredible. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
and that's part of that being the greatest muley hunter, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think the amount of deer, the 64 in a row, I don't think that's the biggest thing about it.
Yeah.
It's what he did for everybody around him.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
And that's what you've always spoke so much about, that and how he cared about people, and how he was patient.
Yeah.
And he was willing to take everybody into his spot.
Everybody.
And there was no tell him crick.
There was never, I mean, there was never like, well, this guy's coming today, so we're not going to go into our good spot. We're going to, no, it's all public land. So, you've hunted over there a few times, and
right. I went with you once.
Yeah.
I went with my dad a couple of times. It's huge, completely different than what we do. Like what me and my dad do is like, we have 600 acres at our house, and we have a section of state land that's pretty close. That that we hunt. And then we have some other ranches that are about 3 sections. I mean, what's the forest?
It's like 300 square miles, I think, of actual
a lot.
forest.
Yeah. So that's
a
big place.
At least that.
Yeah. So, and that was kind of funny too. Is like, I called you after the last podcast. You were telling me about the hunting you did. It's like, all I ever knew about the forest was, you drive the roads and that's what you do. But but that's not what you do.
No,
that's not what you do if you want to get the big ones.
You certainly can. Like one of my cousins killed an absolute monster while they were like driving from one area to another, like right off the road. I mean, basically, and it's I'll pull up a picture here because it's a tremendous deer. One of the biggest one that anybody in the family has killed. So he's really, really, really nice buck. Lots of points. Pull it up here. Take just a minute here. Big file, so.
Whoa. That's a monster right there, man.
Yeah, he's a good buck. He's I think his 4-point frame was over 190, and then he has like 3 or 4 extras on each side.
That's awesome.
Yep. And he was like 15, I think, when he killed that buck. And
15.
Yeah.
That happened to me with my whitetail. 172 inch whitetail. I'll never shoot something bigger than that.
No.
At 15.
I know. My first buck too. It was. It took me a long time to beat my first buck, and he was nothing like that big or anything, but still like. Let's see. Here's another picture of my cousin's buck. It's pretty lucky dude.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's a big part of it too. Like, certainly there's luck involved, but
absolutely
that skill too.
Man, he's got some mass too.
Yeah, he's a hell of a buck.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yep.
Yeah, listening to these podcasts, talking about your dad, letting everybody else go first. It reminds me a lot of my dad. Like he always wanted me to shoot first and get the bigger one. And I remember when I was 12, backstory. So his goal has always been to shoot a 30-inch deer.
Yep.
And when I was little, and the Booth Ranch, right?
Yep.
The big 200,000 acre ranch. Yep. We used to get to hunt that, and we used to round up cows and help the ranchers out, so we got hunting rights.
Yep.
And there was this buck out there on one of the places that he said was the biggest buck he's ever seen.
Yep.
And he took my mom to try and get it. And she missed him on 2 separate occasions.
Oh.
And he still let her take it, take the shot, right?
Yep.
And because he enjoyed watching her and watching me shoot over him.
Yeah.
And a kid actually shot him on Thanksgiving. They gave him he was 12 years old. They gave him a half a day to hunt. He was just there to hunt turkey.
Yeah.
And this monster, 32 or 33 inches wide, perfect 5-point, 212 inches.
Yep.
And then fast forward when I'm 12, Halloween night, we had been watching this buck since the start of the season, and he knew he was a monster.
Yep.
And Halloween night, I decided to go trick-or-treating instead of going hunting, and he had him at 100 yards and didn't shoot him. And the next night, I had him at 200, and I couldn't get him in the scope.
Oh,
he still didn't shoot him.
Yep.
Later that season, one of his friends got it, 32 inches wide, over 200 inch. It just, it's kind of like looking at the time, you don't really think of it, right?
Yeah, certainly.
But looking back, and now kind of how I am,
Yeah.
It's the same way as I am. I haven't shot a deer in 7 years.
Yeah.
Because I've been too busy trying to get everybody else a deer.
Yeah.
And I prefer it that way.
Yeah. Yep. And there's a lot to be said for that, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's incredible, like the amount of patience that our fathers have, like just over the years. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand how my dad really put up with it. Really,
yeah, yours more so than mine, I bet.
yeah,
More
yeah,
patience.
yeah. I mean, my dad was basically a saint in that regard. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, just like, just super chill all the time. Always had a positive spin on
Mm-hmm.
things. Like, could always find the good in whatever shitty situation, and I mean, there were times where I remember one time, like, I was real little and we jumped some monster bucks, like 3 big bucks out of this creek. The biggest one was well over 30. I mean, just a monster, just a huge giant 4-point, like exactly what all of us hope for. I mean, that's,
Right.
And just like you could tell he wanted to go chase after him after he missed,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like 6 and he just couldn't go fast enough and far enough to, not that you'll really catch up with him anyway after you scare him like that when you're shooting at him, but like that inclination is there, like, but he knew he couldn't catch up to him, and we just, all right.
And he wasn't upset at you. He wasn't upset at
No,
all. He just,
no, just like
that's
that's
cool.
part of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what, I knew you're just a little guy, and that's part of the deal. It was more
Yeah.
important that you be there with me than me getting this big buck by leaps and bounds,
Right.
and that's pretty incredible. So
Yeah, no doubt.
I got a picture of your whitetail here. I'm gonna pull up.
My whitetail?
Yeah,
Oh, right on your skull.
yeah, yeah. It's a hell of a buck.
That's what happens when your girlfriend doesn't want deer heads. It's compromise.
Absolutely.
It makes it a little fancy.
Yeah. Well, I only have one on my wall at all, and that's my dad's giant one. So,
You're limited to that.
just because this house that we live in is so small, like
Yeah.
it's, the walls are really short and there's just no room. So
Right.
when we were back in Wisconsin, I had a pretty tremendous setup with
Nice.
all my dad's big bucks and everything, but that's part of the deal.
Yes, sir.
We make compromises. That's a
Absolutely.
big part of life. So,
No doubt.
but ultimately, you bring it all back, and at the end of the day, if you can still get out and go hunting and do all those things that we all love so much, and with the people that you love so much, and it's a pretty tremendous thing.
How old are your kids now?
My daughter's almost 5, and my son will be 2 in January. So
You got a little while.
yep.
Till they're able.
One, and part of it is too, my wife, so I work Monday through Friday, and then she works usually Thursday through Monday,
Mm-hmm.
so that we have very minimal outside help, because we all
Oh,
know
right
how
on.
much daycare costs. And
No doubt.
you know, my mom lives right down the street, about 10 blocks away, and she watches them those 3 days a week, and it works out really, really well. So
Nice. Yeah,
yeah,
I get to go to Montana with my 3 kids, my older kids.
nice,
This year, they're all getting tags,
nice,
and that is an out-of-body experience watching them shoot a deer.
for sure.
So my little girl last year, first time she ever shot a gun,
Yep.
was the day we went out. That morning, we got everything set up. I got her on a tripod and put a target out there, and we were blind shooting. So
Yep.
I would have her, take the gun, and I'd move it to the have her move it to the target and then shoot. Take the gun, move it to the target, then shoot.
Yep.
And she got really comfortable doing that. Then we got in the blind, and it was boring. I cannot stand blind
Seriously.
hunting. Is terrible,
Yep.
especially for my ADD personality.
Yep.
So we were out there for a couple hours, and it got really boring. And I could tell she was kind of just like, do. So there was a barn cat that was in the field, and I had her grab the gun and practice on the barn cat, like move the gun to, and then steady it on the cat, move the gun, steady on the cat. And it was about, I don't know, I was hunting with Alan Dixon, and it was probably 5 minutes, 7 minutes before shooting light was done. Yep. And the deer just start running into the field. It was insane. He told me it was going to happen. He's like, you just got to be ready.
Yep.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen fast. And so the does are running in the field, and all of a sudden I see a flash in the trees. And I was like, Alan, that's a buck. He's like, well, Ellie, get ready. And he literally stepped out with 2 minutes of light left, and he's looking dead at Ellie. And she couldn't find him. And I'm, where is it? I was like, it's right where that barn cat was. So she moves the gun to the deer, gives me a thumbs up, and then 5 seconds later puts it right in the center.
That's awesome.
As I was shaken.
Yeah.
I don't know how she was so calm.
Yep.
To give me a thumbs up, like, I got this, Dad.
Yep.
And he went 10 yards.
That's awesome.
That feeling.
Yep.
Now I know what my dad felt.
Yeah.
And what your dad felt.
Yep.
It is the most amazing feeling.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah. My first buck, me and my dad started out real early one morning, and we started down this long ridge. We were way up at the top, and we're just working our way down, checking out some points and doing a little glassing, and just, like knowing the deer are going to be feeding their way up and into the hills there. And we spotted this buck from probably 600-700 yards away, and he was feeding towards us and looked pretty decent. So we get down to a lot closer, got into a creek, and we're able to get, we ended up getting about 325 yards away from him, and he's just feeding there. He doesn't have any idea what it, that we're there at all. And my dad's, he's looking at him, and I'm like, well, that's a big buck. And so, like, my dad's still just like looking, and I'm just like, all right, this is it. So I got down, and I didn't even
you didn't tell him,
wait or anything. I got down, got a good rest, and I just shot. And that buck he kind of hunched up a little bit, and he took about 7 steps and just fell over dead. And my dad's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, that was a good buck. He's like, dang. So we get up to him, and he was, a really nice buck. And it was just like, it just took him by surprise so much, that it happened like that. And just kind of funny. And he just was not expecting it at all. And he was thinking about how we were going to get a little bit closer. And I was shooting a 6mm, which isn't really a long range cartridge at all, but I knew that gun, and I was a good shot, so didn't even matter, but
that's funny. And I'm the exact opposite. Like, my dad had to say, you know what, you better shoot that. I'm like, are the horns big enough though? And my dad, shoot the damn deer.
Yep. Here's
Dang.
my buck.
That's a good buck. He's tall.
Yeah, he was a couple more years on him, and he would have been something really, really nice. But I mean, he's still like 150-inch buck and about 23 inches wide. And
you were a baby.
Really,
holy crap!
I know. I was 12, man. Like, that was my first ball.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. And I shot him right in the liver, and he didn't even know what hit him at all. So
wow.
Yep. And then it was one of those times where we went into town because it was going to be quite a drag. So we went into town and got my brother and my brother-in-law, and then my brother-in-law had a good camera, so we were able to actually take some good pictures of the buck, and
Nice.
whatnot. But it's one of those like rare times where we had a camera that was decent and like took a good photo. So
yeah, I don't have too many photos of stuff.
yeah.
Now everything's a photo.
Yep.
Everybody's got a camera
Yep.
in their pocket. It's crazy.
Yep. Well, I mean, just the quality of cameras now on phones is just ridiculous. Like,
Can you imagine if we had phone scope?
oh my gosh. Seriously.
That's insane.
Here's a close up of that buck.
I've seen that picture, yeah.
About as pretty a deer as you could ever hope for,
Yeah, no doubt.
Just perfectly symmetrical but yeah, I'm really excited to share that with my kids someday, down the road here. So
Washington, I think it's 10 years old, so you're not 12 like Montana, which is nice.
Yeah, for sure.
But you'll probably be in Montana by then.
That's the hope. That's the hope. Yeah, we're gonna do what we can to move to the Bozeman area. Probably 3 years, somewhere in there. Nice. So yeah,
I'd love to get there.
Oh man,
probably not gonna happen though.
Yep, that's part of the deal.
Yeah,
when your kids are one place, and that's kind of limits.
Kind of stick around. Yeah.
Yep, kind of limits what you can do. So, but that's.
We can still get the out-of-state tag.
For sure.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. The Montana out-of-state tag. It's guaranteed for youth. I think until they're 15, and it's only 300.
Oh, nice.
Instead of the 600.
Yeah, 656.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. My brother will be a resident next year, so I'll be able to get that non-resident Montana native next year. So.
Oh, awesome.
That'll be nice.
Yeah, my dad gets me that every year. So.
Yep, that helps.
I still eat the tag all the time.
Yeah.
a lot of tag soup, but man, it's fun to be out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Certainly not about the killing anymore.
Nope. And that's what's great about these podcasts, hopefully. Yeah. I mean, granted, it's not huge yet, but maybe it will.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. Maybe we'll grow it as big as we can get it,
but we can, people will see that it's not just shooting up the forest. It's actually going out there and respecting the land and respecting the deer, and we care more about the deer than they do. The people that are. But yeah, that's been one of my things that I enjoy, is getting people to switch on. When I say, because not a lot of people here hunt in Washington, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And they kind of look at you sideways when they find out that you do, and then the more you talk about it, and how I hunt and how you hunt, and we're not just out there shooting just to shoot.
Nope.
And they don't see the little moment you have with a deer after you shoot it, and thank him, and
it's feel been a little bad, but hunting has become so stigmatized. It's just another talking point that people use to categorize people, and you can't. People are individuals, man, and like everybody does things their own way. And sure, there are shitty people that do go out and just indiscriminately kill animals. That does happen, but those are not hunters. And that is a very, very important distinction. Like, that is not hunting. That is poaching, and that is illegal. Like 99% of hunters do not poach. Like, that's just the reality is, like, it's just so antithetical to everything that we stand for as hunters. Like, we hate poaching so much more than anybody else because of how it impacts everybody. Like, one person doing one shitty thing has such a negative effect on all of us that we hate poachers more than anybody that's a non-hunter. Like, I can't tell you how pissed off it makes me when I read shitty stories like that just infuriates me.
Right, and you hear, like I was talking to my dad and other hunters back home, like you can buy, I don't know how many doe tags you can buy now, but it pisses us off. Why give out all those doe tags? You're finally getting the herd, to a point where it's good for us.
Yep.
Why give it all out? Right.
Yep.
And we don't want to shoot that many.
No.
So
and like, they shut off the doe tags over there for a couple of years, and
which was good.
It was so good, man. Like the population was so good. That year that I killed my biggest buck 2 years ago, we saw so many good bucks that year because they had a chance to grow. Like,
right.
And like the does were having fawns, and the fawns were having a chance to grow up, because a lot of people, I mean, you can drive up to a doe and a fawn and just shoot them. Like there's no sport at all to shooting a doe.
Right.
There's nothing. But hunting a big muley buck, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. And
right.
You can drive down the road and you can find a doe to shoot anytime you want. I mean,
almost, yep.
That's like, if you can't do that, you're driving on the wrong road, basically. Like,
yeah.
But I don't like doe hunting at all. I mean, there are areas, like back in Wisconsin in the farmlands and everything, like they have to shoot a lot of does because the population is out of control.
Right. The last deer I did shoot was a doe, because I was archery hunting on the mine, and you had to shoot a doe.
Yep.
If you wanted to shoot a buck, because it was just so out of control.
Yep.
But
yep. Yeah, and that's where hunting as a conservation tool is the most important thing that you can have. Like, but you have to have a reasoned approach is the whole thing, and you can't just sell tags because you want to sell tags. Like, that's just a recipe for disaster. So, but yeah, my brother worked on the Booth Ranch for like 7 years, and so
did he really?
Yeah.
So he got to hunt out there as well.
He did not. At that point,
so this was the new ownership. Okay.
They outfitted. So he got to elk hunt. He got to archery elk hunt out there,
which is a gold mine.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yep. He killed a couple of really nice bulls, and
that's cool.
Yep. And saw and got sheds off of just monsters.
Yeah.
Yep. And we saw one morning. So we would go spend like a week or so in the summertime out at my brother's place there, and it was awesome. So we'd go out in the evenings, in the morning, and go up into the hay fields and just look at deer, and because looking at deer is awesome. And it's like in the same field you'll have, like, literally we would see antelope, whitetail, mule deer, and elk in the same field.
All in the same field.
Yep.
It's so funny. Looking at deer is fun.
Yeah.
We used to, Alan and I, Alan Dixon, our senior year, we got the work release. So we were out at I don't know, 1 o'clock or so.
Something, yeah.
Every day. And every other day we would switch trucks. So like we would drive that loop on the Booth Ranch, and then we'd come back. I can't remember which road it was. Or the Arches, right?
Yep.
So we'd go all the way out there. I don't know how we afforded it.
Yeah.
Like, probably gas was like 80 cents a gallon, but
yeah, it was like $1.24 or some shit. Yeah.
We would do that every day after school, just to go look at deer.
Yep.
Shoot a coyote if we could.
Yep.
Going out, that's insane. That was fun.
Yeah.
Just to go out and look, because there was not a day that you went out there and you didn't see something big.
Yeah.
Something big. That place was insane.
I saw the biggest buck I've ever seen out there one morning, and he's every bit of 40 inches wide.
No way.
Yep.
That's crazy. You have a picture of it?
Yep. I'm going to show it right now.
Now this is exciting. There we go. Holy crap. Yeah, he's wide.
Yeah. Yep.
Man.
Yeah. That's
crazy.
He was a monster.
Look at those. Look at those brow tines, man. They don't
I
get
know.
that big.
No, I know. He was, and like it's deceptive. He doesn't like his points don't look very good in this front picture, but that's like the G3s, they grow like forward instead of out like the other points are. So
Right.
he would probably be, I would guess he's every bit of 185, if
Yeah,
not
that's a big
bigger,
deer.
but like legit 40 inches wide.
Yeah, my dad and I were driving back to the ranch. We went to Town Pump or something, right? I don't know, like right before Thanksgiving, a
Yeah.
long time ago. And we're driving out the road, going, the mine that turns to the road that turns to the mine.
Yep.
And so out in those fields, there was this deer. We actually thought it was an elk. The horns were just so massive. I was like, wait, you got to stop. Is that an elk? And you could see them. They were a quarter mile away. It was unbelievable.
Yep.
That place is insane.
Yep. And then the year before, I think the year before, we saw this monster, which is one of the like highest scoring deer that I've ever seen. I mean, he's
Oh man, heavy all the way up. And he's
yep.
got the same
He's got,
kicker on both
yep,
sides.
but he's got two on that one side, on the right side.
And that's out at the booth.
Yep. That
Man.
was like 3/4 of a mile from my brother's house.
Wow.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
so
just his 4-point frame, and then you add the extras, and you're like, you're well over 200.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Oh
monster,
man.
monster.
And those are the ones where you just gotta wave
Yep,
at them and say, "I wish you were
yep.
someplace else."
Wish I could find your antlers.
I think they're charging like $8,000 a hunt though,
Yep,
per deer.
yep. And they only let like 8 hunters a year.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
But they don't really hunt either.
Hmm.
I mean, that's part of the deal is they drive you around the ranch and you find a deer and you shoot it.
Yeah.
So if
Because you
you
don't
want to
have.
shoot a 200-inch deer, you can,
Yeah.
but that's not hunting.
No.
That's
If they
not
only do eight hunts a year, that's crazy.
seriously, because that ranch is enormous.
200,000 acres.
Yeah.
What I've heard. I don't
Yep.
know if it's that big. That
It's
seems
not,
like a lot.
but it's every bit of 90,000.
Yeah. Maybe. Oh, it's 200,000 because they also have leases. The Great
Yeah.
Mountain Property lease. That's what
Yep.
it is. So they can hunt 90,000.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. So this is one of the elk that my brother saw and then he found the sheds on this bull.
Is that like an 8-point?
Yeah.
Man.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember being 7 years old and rounding up cows for them, and I could barely even kick the horse. My legs were so short. But man, you'd ride up on these elk, and they'd be on the high side of the hill with big bulls, and
Yep.
like that was before there was even a tag.
Yeah.
There's some big ones out there.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing how the elk have like become, from the time that we were there living and to now, like the elk are a whole different thing.
Yeah, we couldn't even hunt them when we were in high school.
Nope. So here's those sheds. I mounted them on a skull.
You mounted them?
Yeah.
That's what I understand how you do that. That's insane. I tried doing mine, and
Yeah.
it does not work very good.
Elk are hard, man. Like deer are
Yeah,
such a piece of cake compared to an elk.
nice.
Yeah. And that bull, he's a monster. Monster.
I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then, like that was one of the really cool things that my brother got to do working on that ranch. Like every spring he's out, fixing fence everywhere and finding sheds like you wouldn't believe. I mean, there were days where he would find 30 sheds in a day just
Wow.
fixing fence, because when they're ready to shed and they jump over a fence, the concussion of them landing will
definitely
drop the antlers. So walking a fence line is always if you're looking for shed antlers, that's a good place to start.
I never did get into that.
Yeah.
Looking for sheds. We had such a small property that, we'd find one or two every once in a while.
Yeah.
But it was nothing ever interested me.
It's a big business now. I mean, really,
I guess.
really is a big business. I sold 2 sets of sheds to Cabela's that my brother had found.
Oh, wow.
For $1,000 a piece.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
they were big bulls. Like they were,
no doubt.
Like 380 and like a 370 6-point and a 380 8x8. They were big, but still a lot of damn money for some antlers.
No doubt.
But there's a tremendous amount of money in antlers that people just don't understand. Like, and shed antlers especially. Like, shed antler collectors are some crazy damn people. Like, they pay just ungodly amounts of money for just a piece of bone.
Crazy.
That falls off every year and grows back bigger,
No doubt.
It's really incredible how antlers are when you think about it. Especially on a big bull elk, like look how big those antlers are, and like they grew that in about 5 months.
And then they do it again next year.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
Let's get back to your dad.
Yeah, let's
tell me some more stories.
Boy, he let me find a couple pictures here, because it's always nice to start with some pictures and
get the backstory later.
Yeah. So my dad had this giant 3-point that he killed in Colorado in like 1964. And here it is. And this buck, it was an early season in Colorado, or an early rifle season. My dad never bow hunted. He never ever did it. But so it was an early August or like late August rifle hunt in Colorado. And he went up into this area, and he'd never hunted it before, of course. And because in those days, like he was working, or like I think they were living. I think at that point they were in Golden, Colorado, which is where the Coors plant was.
Okay.
Or is. My mom worked for Coors actually for a little bit, and that was pretty cool. And then so they went out, and he was hunting on this high rim rock, like 100-foot cliffs, these big sandstone cliffs. And he got up on this big ridge, and he's working his way around, and he looked down, and he sees this big buck just kind of walking up this trail, like pretty slow. And I mean, you can tell he's a big old buck, and definitely something that you want to look into a little further, and pretty quick that buck's like right directly below him, and he was shooting at open sights 30-06, I think, and he just shot and hit it in the spine and dropped it, and went down. Like it took him like an hour and a half to get around to him, because he was up on this giant cliff, and so he finally gets around to him, and it's this big 3-point. And then so because it was in a velvet, like they didn't do anything good with the antlers for a long time. And then they ended up, one of my uncles that lives in Western Montana had them in his shop, just sitting there one year. And So we visited, and I was like, my dad's like, oh, there's my big 3-point. And so we ended up taking the antlers home with us, and I did something with them, and then I ended up putting them on a skull, and they had a shellac after the velvet had dried up and peeled off. They had been shellacked, so they were like a nasty yellow and just didn't look good at all. But so I stripped all that off and then put a nice dark finish to them and put them on a skull, and
Oh, nice.
just
Man, he's weird looking, isn't he?
yeah, super unique. Like they sit so far forward too on the main beams.
That's
And
crazy.
then like where the top piece forks, it's like you can barely get your hand around it. It's so massive. I mean, his bases are probably only 4.5 inches, but up top there, I mean, you're looking at like 7 inches around.
Wow.
Yeah,
and that was just laying in a shop somewhere.
Yep. It's just
That's hilarious.
Hanging from a rafter.
Just no big deal.
Yeah. Like
that's what my dad too. He's got a whole shed full of just deer he's killed.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. Not even boiled out.
Yep.
Just in a box.
Yep.
And I was like, Dad, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like there's at least 3 170, 180, like legit 170, 180 deer.
Yep.
Like, what are they doing in a box?
Yeah.
Like, these deer are bigger than most people see in their lifetime.
Yeah.
We need to do something with them. I don't care. He got the ones mounted that he likes, and
yeah. As a 3-point, that buck scores like 165.
Wow.
Which is huge.
That's a huge 3-point.
That's a monster. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And that, just went up into an area I'd never been before, but it felt right, and he trusted his intuition, and sure enough, he was able to shoot
got the job done
buck.
again.
Yep.
What year was that?
1964.
Wow.
Yep.
Open sights too.
Yeah. Yeah, they did it different.
No doubt.
Well, and he didn't, I don't even think he did own that rifle, because I think that's the one he traded for the 25-06 that I ended up with. Like, my Uncle Jack bought that 25-06 brand new in 1970, and then traded my dad for that 30-06 because he wanted that one real bad for whatever reason. It was a special
something he wanted.
Yep. And he was a weird character anyway, so it fit that he would do something kind of goofy like that. But yeah, pretty crazy. And
so now, the last, I don't know how many years did he hunt the forest? Did he ever not go to the forest, or was it always in the forest?
We hunted the forest primarily, probably almost the whole time we lived in Colstrip. That was a big, but we also hunted a lot of block management like McRae's.
Oh, you did? Yeah. That was always fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That was where, like, in the one with my sister we were talking about, there was like 250 deer that first morning that we drove up into that area. And that was
that Clint's or Doug's?
That was Clint's.
Okay. So not close to my dad's then.
Yeah. The one area was like pretty close. Like, it was like just basically straight back. Like, if you go, it's like right on the edge of Clint's place next to Doug's.
Okay.
Pretty close to your dad's place. So
cool.
But yeah, it was that was a revelation when you'd been hunting the forest forever, and then I mean, you see deer, but you never see deer like that. Like, that's a whole thing.
That was always a crazy thing when my dad got that in 1990. It's like he had just lost rights out at the Booth Ranch. They sold it, so we couldn't go out there. We didn't know what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We typically went to northern Montana, Libby, hunting whitetails, but he loved hunting muleys. So where are we going to hunt? And I remember we were checking fence one day, and we were on the four-wheeler, just me and him, and all of a sudden these two bucks jump out of the trees, and we're like, holy crap, what the heck was that? One of them had to be 160, one was 140, and then well, maybe we should look around here. And we hunted around our place a ton. That drop time buck was killed right on the ranch.
Yeah.
The big one that he scored 195, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's been some big deer killed on the ranch, and that state land right next to it. And then honestly, the block management, whenever Clint had or Doug had that around our house. Yeah. We signed up for that area a bunch too. Yep. And had good success.
Dave Pemble killed a 180 on that state land when.
Did he really?
When he was in high school, yeah. I think maybe it was
got a picture of that?
I'm looking for it.
It might be one that I missed.
It was like 28 inches wide. I mean, he was a monster, real heavy.
Yeah, there was good deer. I mean, and the weird thing about it was, like, my dad, like, he didn't shoot a lot of deer. He would always see these big bucks, that would be 180. He's like, well, I already got 180. I'll let him grow up for next year. Yeah. But muleys, that doesn't work for muleys. They're never the same deer. And you never see the same deer 2 years in a row.
And that's it. A place like that, they're going to be moving through. They're not going to stay. There's no staying.
When it comes to mule deer.
Yeah.
They're what's their range? 25 miles, I think.
Yeah. Well, and then you throw the rut into the mix, and it's those bucks travel a long damn way. Here's Dave's buck.
That was killed out there?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. He and I hunted it like the day before, and then he swung by my place and was like, hey, look what I got. Like,
look what I did.
You son of a bitch.
Honestly, every year there's a big deer like that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily always killed.
Yeah.
This last year was road killed. One got hit by Nyman's field. That was just, I guess, ginormous.
Sure.
A couple of years ago, my brother and I were archery hunting, and there was another drop time buck in that area. And just like one of those things, you're not too far out of town, and just got the right, I don't know, the right terrain or what it is, but the right passageway, because coming the town deer, going through the mine, coming out to their breeding grounds. I don't know what it is, but it's always something.
Yep.
There's always some good deer.
Definitely. Well, it was always interesting, like living in town, and man, when the rut hit, boy, there were big bucks all over that town. Like
walking down Main Street.
And, I mean, like I remember, like deer brawls in like the IGA parking lot, and like two big bucks just going at it. Like that's just crazy.
Riding your bike down the bike path, and going right next to a herd. Do I want to go by these guys or not? Yeah, that was always crazy. People don't fully understand just how many deer were in town.
No, it was a problem. Nobody could have gardens because deer ate everything. Like rats, dogs, and it was a thing. Because I had a paper route when I was in high school, so I'm walking through that whole neighborhood by where my mom lived, and every morning it's dark, and shit, I ran into deer every day, and there were a couple times where there'd be a herd of does, and they'd like, I'd scare them, and then they'd like come and stomp and snort and like act like they're gonna come kick the shit out of me, and like
it's crazy.
It was a little sketch time or two, but
we live 7 miles out of town, and every morning I would count deer. Yeah. And every morning I saw them.
Yep.
It got bad. I don't know what year it was. We had that bad winter, and but there was years that I didn't see them, and that was just unheard of. But almost all through high school, every day I'd see deer.
we can drive from one end of town to the other, and if you don't see 30 deer, like you weren't paying attention at all.
Right. Right.
And I mean, some big ass bucks, like.
Yeah. Well, there was a 214-inch deer killed right next to the guard shack.
Yep.
The double drop time buck. I don't know if you heard of him.
No,
they're right there out of town.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, that big buck Rosander killed. That was like a 236.
Yeah, that was beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they didn't open up hunting around town when we were in high school.
No. It was definitely, well, like when I moved back and I was a security guard at the mine for a year. And so that year was the first year that I started bow hunting. And so I went out, like, because you could sign up for hunting areas right there at the guard shack. So I'd be working and like, oh, okay, I'm going to be done at 2. So, all right, I'm going to sign up for, this area, and kind of had first dibs on that.
Nice.
And, I almost shot I was like, if he'd have taken one more step, I would have got a shot off at a 160 right across the street from the guard shack, like right in that little patch of trees right there.
That's where that double drop time was killed.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many nights like I'd be working overnight, and big bucks would just walk right across right through the gate, and man, it was just crazy.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's a crazy place.
Lots of fun though.
Yeah, there's a lot worse places you could have grown up, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's always kind of funny because, you and me, like, we were friends, but we were like very, very different social circles, and it all was connected because of the hunting. Like that
Absolutely
brought it all together, and now we're many, many years out of high school and still friends, and we talk about hunting all the time, and we talk about football, and we play fantasy football together, and that's always an awesome thing. But like, looking where we started, and I mean, I was not a popular kid, but
I wouldn't say I was either.
Compared to me, certainly you were. Absolutely you were. But and you were friends with all of the popular kids. You may not have been like a popular kid, but you were a lot closer to them than I was.
I didn't like them.
Yeah, well, and you shouldn't, because they're terrible people.
100%.
And look at them now.
100%.
But at the time, high school's a terrible time.
Yeah.
But we always had hunting to fall back on, and there'd be times where you and me would go out after school and go drive around, by the mine and try to find a coyote, or we shot a badger one time.
We did.
That was a pretty wild time.
That was out by my dad's.
That was actually.
What was that?
That was way out towards like Sarpy. We were all the way on that side.
Yeah.
Way over, but
yeah. Bad times. Good times, but bad times.
Yeah. One of those things you look back and you're like, yep.
Should we have done that?
Definitely wouldn't have done that again. But at the
no
time,
doubt.
like, it was the first real opportunity that we had at a badger, and
you take that opportunity.
So we killed it.
Yeah. I do have to say though, like, hunting has definitely kept me close with the people, that I hunted with. Like, I would say that I talk more with my hunting buddies than I do anybody else, right? My brother, my dad, my Uncle Marty, people like that. I mean, they are people that we keep in touch with, and especially when hunting season comes around, because there's nothing better than a hunting story, right? Like, I can't remember what happened yesterday, on my day-to-day life, but man, I can remember when I pulled that trigger, or when my friend pulled that trigger, my daughter pulled the trigger, right? It lasts so much longer.
I remember the sight picture of my first buck when I was 12 years old, and I am 37 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
I can see the image.
Like I can smell the gunpowder, and I can
Yeah.
smell. I know exactly how the frost was, because it was a really hard frost,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a really probably 20-degree morning, but no snow or anything. And that was 25 years ago. That was
Yeah.
25 years ago. But it etches in your mind so much that you just remember.
Right.
Just remember.
Yeah. It's like,
And even the misses, I remember some just tremendous misses on some absolute monster deer. Like one time my dad and I, we were hunting the forest, but we had gotten permission to go into this area that was quite a ways. Like we got to go through some private land to get back into an area that most people couldn't get back into.
mm-hmm.
And so we got back in there, and we start down this ridge, me and my dad, and we were hunting together. And I was probably a junior in high school, and we both had 25-06s. I had my Remington 700, and he had a Ruger #1 single shot 25-06. That was
Mm-hmm.
pretty badass gun. And we pop over this little ridge and busted out these two big bucks right below us. They had, they were bedded down right up in up against a hill, and we popped over and they took off. And boy, one of them was a really good buck, like a good typical buck, and the other one looked like it had baseball bats coming out of the top of its head with just like spikes, like just straight
Yeah.
up like this, and then just spikes on the end. Like
Weird.
no actual frame or anything, just this. And we both missed both of those bucks bigger than shit for as many times as we could until they were gone. But it's still like you I mean,
You
I can
just
still
remember it.
picture exactly the circumstances, and like what the country looked like, and how exhilarating it was. And we had a big shootout on these big bucks, and neither of
Yeah.
us could hit anything, and that book fever really took over. But I can still just remember that buck, and he was so weird, and that's one that you wish you could have back.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, I remember. So one of the best memories I've had is my dad and I. We were up in the Beartooth Mountains hunting elk. It's only camping. You have to.
Yep.
There's no vehicles. You have to use
Yeah.
horses or camp. Or backpacks or stuff like that. So
Yep.
we would do it every year. It's about a 15, 16 mile horse ride back in. You do wall tents and the wood stoves, stuff like that.
Yep.
Every morning you're up at 4:00 in the morning. You got a 2-hour ride up to the top, and I remember it was the last day of the season, and I was just tired. I was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Like it's hard. I was 16, so
Yeah.
my dad, he had every year killed a 6-point,
Yeah.
and he didn't want to break that streak. I don't know, it'd been, I can't even remember, a lot of years in a row.
Yeah.
And we're on last day. We got to pack out the next day, and it's the last evening. So he's like, I'm gonna try something different. He's like, we're gonna stay on the horses, and we're gonna just go all the way down instead of walking down and walking back up to the horses. And I don't know, it was maybe 30 minutes before the end of the hunt, and
Yeah.
and I'm like breaking sticks off, as when I'm
bored. Yep.
I'm bored out of my mind. My dad is still just tuned in, man. He
Yep.
just tuned in. And I break a stick off, and he looks back at me kind of pissed off. And
Yep.
yeah, fine. I'll just sit here and twiddle my thumbs. And all of a sudden, he bails off his horse. I bail off my horse. I was like, it was like instant. Like
Yep.
I knew what was going on.
Yep.
I bail off. He bails off. He hands me his reins, and he puts his gun over his saddle, and bam, he shoots. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Right? The horses were even so bored that they didn't even jump really. Right?
Yeah.
So, and he had one of the biggest bulls he's ever killed.
Wow.
Because he just was that tuned in, and he didn't give up. He's like, I'm gonna do it. And we were so far away from camp. It started to snow.
Sure.
The deadfall, and I'm not even joking. A lot of people think I'm lying on this one, but the deadfall was so bad and so high that the horses were having to jump over these trees, and they were rubbing their belly. It was bad. I thought we were sleeping out there.
Yeah.
But we found a trail, and my dad's horse, the most amazing horse I've ever seen. Like, he knew every inch of that mountain.
Yeah.
He'd been going there since he was 2. That was actually, he died that winter.
Wow.
But 2 hours later, my dad said, put your hat down so you didn't get, a tree in your face. And he led us all the way back to camp.
Wow.
And he hadn't been on that trail for, I don't know, 5-6 years.
Yep.
But it was like that stuff that just it ingrains in your head. Like, I can see the branches I'm breaking in my hand. I can see my dad bailing off, and I know exactly what to do.
Yep.
And
and the other thing it teaches you is like just perseverance. Like, you had given up. I mean,
I didn't even care.
We've all been there. We've all done it, and like you hunt till the end.
Mm-hmm.
You hunt till you can't.
Yeah.
And there were years like, man, I remember this one year. So me, Chris Watson, and my dad were hunting. It was the last day of season. Me and Chris had already filled all our tags, and we were just along because it's awesome to go hunting. We love to go shoot shit. So we had a 1975 Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40.
I don't ever remember that thing. I wish I would remember
it. Oh man, it was the best.
I bet that's
best.
4-wheel.
That thing would drive anywhere, absolutely anywhere. So we went up and it was raining. It was the last day of season, but it was raining.
That's a bummer.
It was warm and rainy, and it was terrible, terrible hunting. And we did a morning hunt, and my dad didn't see anything. And Chris and I just kind of dicked around, and we're driving the Toyota all over the place and just shooting stuff, because we're like 15, 16, maybe. And so my dad gets back to the Toyota, and he's like, all right, we're going to go into town. We're going to go get some hot food, warm up a little bit. And this is like as we're driving into town, and he points to this one little spot. And there's this weird little spot where the forest came right down to the county road. And no, not many people knew that it was forest. So he's like, so we're going to go into town. We're going to come back. I'm going to walk right up here. We're going to park right here. I'm going to walk up on that hill, and I'm going to shoot a buck and a doe. Because he still had a buck and a doe tag left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, I bet you are, Dad. Because seriously, like, it's just not possible.
That's not going to happen.
That's never going to happen. So we go into town, get some, gas station hot food and
pizza burritos.
Yep, basically. The corn dog and
town pump food, man.
Go back out there, and park the Toyota, and it's like that country when it gets wet, it's just gumbo mud. So
lots of fun walking.
Like walking is like carrying a 10-pound weight on each foot, and you walk a couple steps and kick off a huge clump of mud, and you're slipping and sliding and whatever. So we walk up and pop over this little hill, and there's a bunch of deer standing right there, and he bears down, and there's a little buck there, but he drew down, knocked it down, swung over, shot a doe, dropped her, and that buck ran over the hill and out of sight, so we had to go find him, but that doe was dead, and we walked over, and it was in some pretty tall sagebrush, and it took us quite a while to find that buck, but we found him, and he was dead. And so,
he did what he said.
Exactly what he said. And, taking it down to the wire, we had about an hour of daylight left when it was all said and done. everybody filled all their tags, and my dad did exactly what he said he was gonna do, and just ridiculous. Like one of those things you still look back on and you're just like, how
does that work? I would have given up.
Yeah, most people
Yeah.
would have given up, but that perseverance, and at that point he wasn't even like, it wasn't even, my dad didn't even realize the streak really
He didn't
until we
care.
started talking about it, and then I'm like, dude,
dude, don't screw this up, Dad.
Well, it's just ridiculous, like,
yeah,
what he was able to do, and in such varied circumstances and different ways, and he's killed over the years. He thinks at least 8 and maybe as many as 10 different bucks that were over 30 inches wide.
Wow, that's like
you shoot one of those in a career, and you're a hell of a hunter.
Mm-hmm. That's my dad's ultimate goal. Like 30-inch buck.
That's all of our goals.
Yeah.
My brother killed one a couple years ago. That's like, with cheaters, he's right at 30 outside.
Really?
Yeah. Real nice buck, but
my dad wants 30 inside.
Yeah, I mean,
that's insane.
Certainly.
But like I said, he gave up on 2 of them.
Yeah.
2 of them.
I mean,
that's nuts.
Yes, it is. Find a picture of my brother's buck here. He's a damn nice buck. And they're, it's one of those things. They're there. You just got to hunt for them.
Yep. You got to be willing to pass the little ones too.
Yep. And that was what everybody always talked about. Like, you can't shoot a big buck if every year you shoot a good buck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to hold out. You got to take it down. And
that's kind of been my thing too. Is like, there's a lot of them that I should have shot, but
yeah,
I was always hanging out for that other one.
Yep. All right, here we go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, hell of a nice buck.
Your family's killed some dandies, man.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, it's not a coincidence that I named this thing the greatest muley hunter.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there are a lot of people that have killed way bigger bucks and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But just the numbers and the circumstances put us in a whole other category, I think.
Right.
So. And
what he did for other people.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the biggest thing. Granted, like, the size and the amount of deer is insane. That's great. But the lives that he's changed for the better, that makes it even better.
Yeah. I mean, basically everything Reggie knows, he learned because of my dad. And, everything his little sister knows is because of what Reggie learned from my dad, or, what my dad taught Elizabeth as well. And then now their nephew, and, it just, there's such a cascade effect. And, I brought my buddy Jerome out, and it introduced him to a whole different world of hunting, and all because of what my dad did. And he was always, his thing was like, every time I asked him, hey, can I bring so-and-so hunting? It was always yes. There was never a time when it wasn't yes. And, like, that's crazy.
That is the craziest part, because nobody gives up their secret spot.
No. Nope.
I don't. I'm selfish like that.
Me too.
I know.
No, when I was
after that last one, I was like, "Come on, man, where you at?" So, I'm placed in the forest.
Yep.
It's like, dude, I'm not gonna go there. All right, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, like, when I was setting all this up with Sean, I was like, "All right, here's the deal. I'm gonna take you, and I'm gonna show you some stuff. but you can never ever come hunting here without me. Like
That's my rule too. Like
that's
my
that's the
brother,
deal.
my brother has people in Arizona that want to come up hunting. And I
Yep.
was like, I don't know, man, because there's some places we go that everybody can go, and if they show up without us,
Yeah.
that's like
Yep.
that's a no go. But for
But
your dad, it was like, who
yeah.
cares? Yeah,
Yeah. Like, well,
I'm gonna shoot
we
a
can
bigger
always
buck
go
than you
somewhere
anyway.
else and whatever. And,
Yeah,
you always have plans, and then you go somewhere else, and sure enough, there's a big buck running there, and, you know, just
yeah,
it's crazy. What a guy. What a
heck
guy.
yeah,
I'm eternally blessed to have been his son, and, you know, to be able to pass that on and kind of share some of that and share the knowledge, and it's such a
share your
blessing.
experiences with everybody else as well.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
I get a kick out of hearing it,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I've met him. Obviously, we grew up in
yeah,
the same town, but I never really spent any time with him.
yeah,
I went over there to your house a couple times, and he'd talk about a big buck because I was always
yeah,
intrigued by the ones that he had on his wall. But
yeah, yep,
it was very minimal interaction with him. So
yep,
I feel like I'm getting a piece of that as well. Just hearing these podcasts and your
yep,
sister talking about it, you talking about it, it's cool.
yeah, yep,
Because I have the same feelings about my dad.
yeah,
And it's exciting this year. My dad gets to hunt with my kid.
yeah. That's
So
super awesome.
and I was like, man, why are you going to spend $300 per kid? And he's like, that's expensive. I was like, yeah, but Dad, this is exact words I said to him. Like, Dad, some of my best, most of my best memories are from hunting with you. And I
Yeah.
want my kids to see that. And I was like, tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Nope.
And a lot of it came from this show,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
listening to you talk. And I don't want my kids to miss out on that.
No. No.
So it's definitely.
And like my dad at the end, because like my wife was pregnant with my son,
Mm-hmm.
um, when he died, and it was like my son was born 11 days after my dad passed away,
Oh, wow.
and we got to spend that last Christmas with him because he died January 5th, and so we got to spend Christmas with him and the whole family. And he said his only regret in life was that he wouldn't be around to meet my son and get to share those things with my kids. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, don't worry, Dad, I got you. I
Mm-hmm.
got you. And like, well, so the very last thing he said to me, and this is my dad, always with that positivity, he it's like, we sure had a good run, didn't we? I'm like, God damn it. So in a future episode here, I'm gonna show everybody my rifle and what I had done with that. So on my stock, right where my hand sits on the foreguard, I had that engraved. The dates, my dad's name, the dates of his life, and then we sure had a good run, didn't we? So right
Oh,
in my
that's cool.
rifle stock, right where my hand sits, he's with me every time I take a shot with that rifle, and
Oh,
it's
that's cool right there.
yeah,
I can't wait to see it.
yep. It's
When are you going to be in Montana?
we're gonna be there the first week in November. We're gonna leave
Oh,
here the second, I think.
because I think I'm going to be there the week of the 11th.
Okay, yeah, the next week.
So we'll just miss you.
Yep.
Well, we'll have 2 weeks of stories in.
Yes, exactly. And like I'm gonna get my uncle and my uncle Norm that lives there, get him to talk about a lot of the old stories and get him on camera. And
Yeah.
that's going to be the cool part about hunting camp, is I'm going to have a whole bunch of videos of conversations with, like, the people that were there with my dad and experienced it and still live there, and like
Yeah.
get some of my dad's buddies and just get their perspective on things. And
They'll do the podcast, you
yeah,
think?
well, I'm gonna have them, like, I'm gonna
Oh, I get
just
what you're saying.
I
Little
have
snippets.
some little like small microphones that I can hook 4 microphones up to my phone, so the audio is going to be good, and then I'll just have my phone set up on a tripod and
Oh, gotcha.
Video, I got a huge, like a 256 gig memory card in my phone, so I can take a lot of video and
Nice.
get lots and lots of hours of these conversations, these hunting camp stories, and how one story leads into another story, leads into another story, and just takes you down this whole path of everybody reminiscing and talking about the impact of this one thing on them, and how it all kind of ties back together. So it's going to be super, super cool.
Can't wait to see that.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, we'll definitely get you on after hunting season 2, so we can talk about your hunt. And
anytime.
And then I'll just have you send me pictures of what your kids get and whatever, and that way we can share those pictures as well, and do that. So
sounds great.
Pretty awesome. So thank you so much for joining me, Shad. And
well, thanks for having me. It was a blast.
Been a great conversation, man. And it's always been we've always had a really good relationship just because of hunting. Yep. And we've always kind of seen things very, very similar as a direct result of that. So
absolutely. Until we play in fantasy football, then you're my enemy.
Yes, exactly.
We haven't done that yet this year.
This year is a terrible year. So everybody that I drafted in the first round is hurt. So
there you go.
That's part of the deal.
Yes, sir.
All right,
well, hey, man, I appreciate you having me on, and
absolutely.
I look forward to the next time.
Yes, sir. We'll do this again. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
Yep.